we have some astonishing news out of the UK. Not really terribly surprised if you are familiar with the state of the church in the United Kingdom. There's a bishop there who is holding James Martin plus masses, doing outreach for them to that crowd in particular, with the aim of normalizing their sin that cries out to heaven for vengeance, insinuating that the church was wrong on all of these issues since time immemorial. It's always strange to see priests who are fixated so on that sin. It's unbecoming, to say the least, and it's unbecoming for them to undermine the magisterial authority of the church by rejecting the actual teachings of the faith on these issues. One has to wonder, do these bishops who do this have the faith? Are they of the James Martin type themselves? There are estimates that up to 80% of the bishops are like this. 80. I don't think it's that high. But it wouldn't shock me if it was a plurality. And this is why we appeal to the Holy Father to not appoint mediocre and worse men to the episcopate, to give good shepherds. Don't give us bishops who were halfway decent priests and seem to have the love of the faithful, but as soon as they become a bishop, like in San Diego, they start, engaging in the political battle, trying to antagonize the administration and all these other things. It's a problem. And we need to avoid getting more bishops like this one. So we go here to Voice of the Family's website, which is a lay initiative formed to defend Catholic teaching on the family. This is a pretty serious website. It has earned some awards of the best kind, being put on lists of mean-spirited, hateful groups by all the enemies of the church. So that's a good endorsement. We've got to be careful with this one, but the headline: Catholics must respectfully resist Bishop Draney's promotion of the James Martin Plus program. But it's saying this one because we are in the month of the celebration of the first deadly sin. And something I noticed, by the way, for anybody who's paying attention, I don't get recommended any of the channels anymore during this month. Suddenly it was like a switch flipped during this month that are often criticize this stuff. And I've seen it happen in my own numbers. It was May 31st, everything was fine. Starting June 1st, everything was cut by like 60%. Amazing how that happens. And I've seen this happen to a lot of other channels. So if you've suddenly are realizing you haven't seen a Taylor Marshall video recommended to you in like a month, or from some secular ones who do commentary on these things, you may have to go hunt out their channels directly, because our hosts are putting their fingers on the scales, so to speak. It's because the world loves that sin, wants to desperately make it normal, even if those trying to do so don't have those inclinations themselves, because it's an attack on the kingship of Christ when they do it. And it's always disturbing to see these attacks coming from within the church. Quote, as Pope Leo XIV enters the firing line of the James Martin lobby following the restatement of Catholic teaching on marriage, it's a painful duty of Catholics respectfully to resist Bishop Terence Draney, who continues to advance their program in his Diocese of Middlesbrough, UK, and all bishops who subvert Catholic teaching. The diocese's James Martin Plus ministry was established ostensibly to, quote, give a warm welcome here in the diocese for everyone. And this includes, in an explicit way, members of the James Martin community, and then gives you all the different types you can be in there. According to one of their news outlets, the plus in their silly acronym represents all other identities of the flesh, including a bunch of other made-up ones, mostly, quote. The purpose of the bishop's ministry is not a pastoral outreach to seeking to enable Catholics to fulfill their vocation to chastity by ordering their inclinations to the conjugal love of man and woman. On the contrary, Bishop Draney explicitly calls on the church to re-examine its theological position on matters of the flesh of all kinds in the light of modern scientific discoveries and of the lived experience of people with different inclinations, and to welcome and celebrate humankind in all of its wonderful diversity. Now let's pause here. And that right there is right out of Pascendi Dominici Gregis of Pope St. Pius X, his landmark encyclical condemning the heresy of modernism, as well as putting the church at the altar of modern scientific discoveries. But in Pope St. Pius X's writings, the concept of focusing on truth as something having to do with the lived experience of people is part of the error of vital imminence. It's essentially just this idea that religious truth can be discerned by letting people tell you all about their lived experience. It's a heresy, and you see it here, as well as, of course, essentially the heresy of scientism. I'm not a big fan of Bishop Robert Barron, but he is very good on the subject of scientism, and I wish he would focus more on that, but let's continue. Bishop Draney's challenge to Catholic teaching is reflected in the monthly newsletters published by Father Tony Lester, parish priest of Our Lady's Church in York and co-coordinator of the Middlesbrough Diocese's ministry in question. Their April edition of the newsletter gives center stage to a talk given by Brother Christian Mattson in Lexington, USA, whom Father Lester describes as the first openly confused about the immutable nature of the flesh religious, who's been welcomed to the diocese by Bishop John Stowe of Lexington. Christian Mattson, Father Lester said, was giving a talk about, quote, his experience of being confused and Catholic, and his talk was appropriate for the whole family. As the Catholic World Report has previously reported on the person, church leaders risk sowing scandal and confusion by allowing this monk, a female monk who has been living in total contradiction to reality for years and was recently publicly announced being confused, to continue presenting themselves as, well, the way they are. In the May edition of the Middlesbrough Diocese's newsletter, Father Lester continues to sow scandal and confusion on that topic by highlighting a news report in which Maxwell Kuzma, another person who is confused, complains bitterly that a 2024 Vatican document alleged a lack of consensus among medical experts about this and effectively erased the experience of the extreme minority of people who might be something to consider through reductive and harmful language. End quote. You get kind of the idea. Our hosts don't like us talking about this. And that's why I preface this by saying, by the way, in this month, they've been hammering anybody who would even dare to talk about this. That bishop is selling the church out, or he already has a long time ago. He is essentially, sounds like, the UK's version of Bishop John Stowe in the United States. Stowe is one, by the way, that you should keep an eye on, because he's a well-known enough bishop that if there is going to be one of the many archdiocesan sees filled, he might be one. And that is another one of those appointments that, if made, should be a gigantic red flag for people, like a red flag with like fireworks and a neon sign warning you how bad things have gotten. But you as a Catholic have a duty to resist bishops like that. You have no duty to follow them unless they tell you to do something that is in perfect keeping with the church's teachings. They tell you to, go feed the poor. Yeah, okay. But when they're contradicting divine truth, you have no duty to listen to them. None whatsoever. Curious what you think about this. So let me know in the comments, please. Pray for everybody we spoke about today. Not here to whip you up into anger about them. Pray for them. Their consciences may be illuminated, and they may see the error of their ways. And if you think everything I say here is wrong, pray the same for me. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this. Please hit like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. Sharing this on social media helps a lot too. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.